Hey, 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 y'all. Y'all know I gotta play my theme song up in here. Come on come in. Welcome to another episode. All right. Y'all know I got old soul. Let me turn it down. Let me turn it down a little bit. Mm, mm. Y'all know I used to come in like, love, Riziki after dark. I gotta get my live band, okay? So as soon as my live band finishes auditioning and whatnot, we'll get it together. Okay. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know who's all tuning in yet, but it is all good. I just had to come on, y'all. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. How is everybody doing? I hope you are well. I hope you are well. Come on in the room. If you are here, type where you are watching from. I just got done with a sexy workout myself, y'all. As I'm getting in these 40s, you got to keep it right, keep it tight. Make sure that you are subscribing because this will not be the last Riziki After Dark for 2026. All right, it will not be the last. So no matter where you are in the world, I just want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. You could be anywhere else in the world on a Friday night, but you chose to be right here. And so I'm grateful, grateful, grateful. So again, y'all, welcome. I'm going to just give a minute to have everybody come into the room. And while that is happening, I just want to talk about the topic for tonight, y'all. All right, the topic for tonight. It's a new season, it's a new cycle, it's a new year. I know I have not been on this channel for a long time, and it's for a good reason. And I cannot wait to catch up with everybody, right? So, as always, I just want to start this off on the frequency of love, the frequency of community and togetherness in that real raw ish. All right. So, I've never been one to play. I've never been one to sugarcoat. So you think I'm going to start now? Absolutely not. So again, just thanking everybody for being here, all the energies that's high vibrational and that's present, that's keeping you locked in on bettering yourself and also just moving you forward in whatever path that you set for yourself that's in your best and highest interest. So y'all, we are here. Welcome to the mothership. All right. Welcome to the empire, right? And I'm so grateful that your kingdom or your queendom is a part of it. And tonight, speaking of empire, speaking of kingdom, speaking of queendom, we are talking about sovereignty. Okay. And how sexy sovereignty is. Let me move y'all in a little bit closer. All right. I want to really talk about this concept because I don't know if you all have been in tune what's going on in the world, in tune what's going on in your neighborhood or whatever, but there's a lot of change that's happening and there's also a lot of distraction. So as always, I want to create a space where we can focus in on ourselves and our visions and just make sure that we're staying true to the path. All right. So again, welcome. Type in the chat your name, where you watching from. And again, no matter if you're watching this now or you're going to tune in later, I had to do this anyway. It's just been a lot of conversations happening, and you can only journal so much. So I'm like, y'all, let's get into it. Let's get into it. So again, welcome to the mothership, y'all. Welcome to the empire. This is Riziki After Dark. I am your host, the metaphysical CEO. And CEO does not mean chief executive officer in this realm. Okay. It means catalyst of evolutionary outcomes. It means catalyst of energy optimization. I mean, all these different ways we want to flip it and turn it. Definitely not chief executive officer. We are not in the old traditional corporate setting. All right, we're about being catalysts. We are about being co-creators. All right, so this is what we are about. So I've been quiet on the airwaves, right? But I have not been still at all. And again, I've been in the lab, I've been in the streets, I've been in the boardroom, I've been in the mountains, I've been in the woods. I've been in the medicine, deep in the medicine, watching the world shift, y'all, right? So let me know what's been coming across your path. What have you been noticing in the world? And again, we're not here for the fluff, right? So we're going to go on this real talk road trip tonight. Okay, so I hope y'all are ready. I don't care if it's one person here, I don't care if, nobody's here. At the end of the day, but if you are here, I'm so grateful. But at the end of the day, we have to have this conversation. And I really want you to go on this road trip with me. I want you to go on this shit with me, right? Because tonight's frequency is all about one thing: the sexiness of sovereignty. All right, the sexiness of sovereignty. And when we think about sovereignty, I first want to like define what that means. And some of you who may know me know I love me some words. I love to research the origin of words. And so sovereignty, when we think about it in the foundation of etymology, meaning the meaning of words, it comes from the word superanus, like the word super and the word anus together, superanus, right? And it simply means supreme. And it means supreme authority over a territory. And I'm not just talking about physical territory. I'm talking about the territory of your time, authority over your time, the territory of your thoughts, authority over your thoughts, authority over your food, authority over your income, right? And granted, we're all on this path of sovereignty. So there's no shame or shade if you don't have all the things, right? Yet, but I know you're on the path, right? But it's just important to always remember, if you're not sovereign in whatever area, you're not sovereign, you're you're at high risk of being a subject, right? And again, this is no shame or shade, because am I totally 1,000% sovereign? Not yet. Am I on my way? Absolutely, right? And so this journey, this road trip is about these pit stops along the way, where you gotta, go stop here, stop there, to kind of address these things. And so our goal is to be as sovereign as possible, because if not, and you have these dreams and you have these visions, you're just a visionary in a cage. All right, so we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it, but more importantly, I'm encouraging us all to live it. So I want us to kind of like think of the country right now, and just, what are you seeing? You know what I mean? Like, this American matrix, wherever you are in the world, the matrix of it all. Like, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What is it bringing up for you? And it kind of it kind of can feel like the walls are closing in, right, on a lot of things. And I want you to really have a honest conversation with yourself. Are you building an arc, right? Your empire, or are you are you more likely to go down with the ship? Because I'm going to tell y'all right now, especially those of us who've been in the world of metaphysics and studying the cosmos and the patterns of human cycles and seasons, certain shit is going down. All right. Everything has its time. Okay. And certain shit is going down. All right. And so one of the things that I always talk about is us having the metaphysical power to create reality. And we do. Like, a lot of our teachings say that we have this power to create our reality, but that reality, in order for that reality to be created, we got to have the foundations, right? Not just meditate and not just plant medicine, not just talking about it, but we actually have to build the bones, the foundation of it, right? And it's pretty tough. I don't know about you, but things can come into existence, but it may not be as sustainable if you're not architecting the structure. You know what I'm saying? If having all these things just come to reality, but there's no architecture to it, there's no formula, there's no rhyme, there's no reason, right? So I want us to really think about that. And one of the things that it was so interesting today, I had this conversation about just broke shit, right? And when I talk about the word broke, it's not just the lack of money. It's things that's broken, that's misaligned, right? That's not functioning properly. It's broke when your identity says, and this may hurt some feelings. This may hurt some feelings. And one thing about being a catalyst, one thing about being a disruptor is that one thing about being a truth teller, one thing about being a mirror is that you will not always be liked, right? But most likely you will be effective for change. So if your identity, if you're saying, I'm this, I'm that, king, queen, goddess, you are in your own right. But does your daily work habits say those things, right? Are you moving in that frequency or are you just saying it? Are you moving in that frequency or is you saying the thing just a hobby? You know what I mean? So if something is broken, it can't hold the frequency of the wealth that you want to create for yourself. And I want to be so transparent and real. Everybody's version of wealth does not look the same, and that is okay. I've been saying that for years. Certain people want to be a millionaire, certain people want to be 100,000aire. Certain people's wealth is just, I want a healthy family, and that's cool, right? And though I want you to have a realistic conversation with yourself as to how much do you want to be subject to and how much of your life is truly sovereign. All right. So now I want to go into a meta moment. Let's let production change the light. Okay. Meta moment, y'all. All right. I know. Meta moment. So one of the things that I am definitely going to start incorporating in these Riziki After Darks is these meta moments where all the topics that we're talking about, it's going to relate to a law of the universe or a metaphysical principle. And lately I have been knee deep in gene keys. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what that is, look it up. I'll talk about it later. But this particular gene key I want to talk about before is gene key right now, not before. This particular gene key that I want to talk about tonight is gene key 54, the serpent's path. Okay. So for those who aren't familiar with gene keys, there is a shadow. There's this gene key, there's this concept, right? And then there's the shadow of it. And when you go through the shadow, which is the first layer, you find the gift, which is the second layer. Okay. And then as you're knee deep into the gift and you're operating in the gift, what naturally happens is the city, which is like the highest expression of this particular concept. So in Gene Key 54, it's the serpent's path. And let's talk about the shadow part of it, which is greed. Okay. So this is all about what contributes to the broke frequency. All right. So in the shadow of greed, sovereignty is impossible because you are constantly reacting to a lack. Yo, I had this, I listened to something today, and it's this principle of if you're always wishing for something, it's telling the universe that you don't have it clearly because you keep wishing for it. And when you stay in that frequency of wishing, 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 you're perpetuating the frequency of not having, not having, not having. And how do you think the universe is going to respond? You not having it, right? So it's a trap, right? Because you're constantly reacting to lack. And it, again, this isn't just about money, because there's a lot of things that you could be greedy about, not just about money. You could be greedy in a lot of things. And I want us to understand too, as you know, for those of you who know, being a wellness practitioner, a shamanic tantrika, these things really affect your body on an energetic spiritual level, aka a bioenergetic level, right? So when we're in this energy of greed and lack, it's affecting our spleen, it's affecting our earth element. And I'll get into the metaphysics on that as we go through the series of Riziki After Dark. So I want to talk about the trap, right, y'all? So the trap is found in the hustle. And one of my biggest things this year has been moving from hustle to wholeness, from hustle to wholeness, because hustle, it's a sickness, man. Like always in that energy, it is a sickness and it can and will make you sick, right? And in the hustle, for some people, it's seeking an external status to fix an internal void, right? For some people, the hustle is literally survival. I get that. And I'm gonna be real, like in the journey of not just being a medicine woman, a shamanic tantrika, a cosmic interpreter, right? I'm in these spaces where, again, a lot of people look good on paper, a lot of people look good in their bank accounts, but on the inside, they are void. On the inside, they are disconnected. On the inside, they are unhappy, right? And so when even certain people who have all this money, and y'all, let me tell you something, this is something I'm seeing in these spaces, CEOs, executive, people who got six figures in their bank account, right? There was, and I'll tell you the story, man, this was so crazy. So I'm in this forum, in this seminar, and it had a lot to do with wealth. And, there are these homework assignments that you do in XYZ 1 2 3. And there was this one, a couple of people who, again, big house, nice, fancy, everything, and crying because they realized a lot of their relationships were bought. A lot of their relationships were surface level friendships, acquaintances, people that they hang out with, right? Even sometimes family members. They had to buy their relationships. And then in the back of my mind, in their mind, they're knowing that if this shit falls, if I go bankrupt, if this goes zero, all these people will leave, right? So I want to be very clear. I know that I talk about wealth. I know I talk about abundance. I know what I talk about, you know, shifting from broke mindset and broke habits into wealth. And does wealth involve currency? Absolutely, it does, but it ain't everything, right? It's not everything. So when you're in the shadow of this 54th gene key, greed, you're literally a slave to the matrix. And when I talk about matrix, I'm not just talking about corporate America. I'm talking about all this surface level shit that ain't real. All right. So trying to climb this ladder, no matter if it's corporate ladder, no matter if it's social ladder, that's leaning against like this fake toy house kind of a thing, right? You think you're moving forward, but you're just running on a treadmill of survival, always trying to keep up, always trying to be relevant, always trying to matter, always trying to connect, always, 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 always. Like, when is enough enough? When are you happy? Right? When are you happy? So the beautiful thing about this shadow, the deeper you go into the shadow of greed, whatever the greed is in your life, it's not always money. It could be relationships. It could be a yearning for some kind of connection. It could be food. It could be whatever, right? But in that shadow of greed, there is aspiration, right? So this is the sexy part, y'all. This is where it gets sexy. I had to do my little shimmy. So the sexy part of sovereignty, again, is aspiration. This is the gift of the 54th gene key. It's the healthy use of energy to rise. So we move from the shadow of greed, which affects your earth element, your spleen, and then it goes into the gift of the wood element, which affects your liver, because it's all about action at this point, right? So what does this mean to go into the gift of the 54th gene key? This means the shift, like you stop work. Here's the, now I'm gonna need y'all to take note. Let me drink my water. Let me moisturize. This is a jewel. In the gift of the 54th gene key, okay? You stop working for more, and then you stop working for more and start working for mastery. Just let that sink in for a second. You stop working for more, and it doesn't mean you won't get more, but there's a different kind of energy that's behind your movement and your action when you're not operating in the space of I want more, and you're operating in the space of I want mastery. It's a different energy, yo. And what you attract is different. Okay. What you experience is different, right? So I want to talk about what's called the architect's secret. All right. So one of the things about aspiration is, so aspiration understands that commerce is a sacred ladder. And I want to say something too, because a lot of times, unfortunately, we turn up our nose at commerce as if we have never participated in commerce, as if commerce was never a part of our culture, of our existence. Commerce has always, I mean, since the beginning of time, the moment the first beings was like, oh, I have something to value, you have something to value, I need something from you, you need something from me. Can we trade what we find valuable and get the thing done? It's always happened. Okay, now maybe the way commerce is being done, I get it, but commerce has always existed, right? So commerce is something very sacred. It's actually feminine in its essence, right? And so what's happening in this secret of the architect that it's called is you use this material world to fund the spiritual vision. I'm gonna say this again. All right, because we got to integrate in this mother flubber, y'all. I don't know why we thinking we just can totally separate ourselves. You can detach, but unless you about to go live in a corner somewhere, which by the way is not everybody's reason for being here. Certain people are supposed to be on top of the mountain meditating. Certain people are supposed to be in this world turning up. Okay. Because turned down for what? Okay. Based on their creative energy, based on who they're here to impact, based on what they're here to co create, you're supposed to be in these streets doing, living your best life and impacting others in a very beautiful way. Not everybody's meant to be off grid. Not everybody's meant to live in the woods. Not it's not that everybody's not meant for that, right? Because creation has to keep creating, and I don't care if that's a new form of technology, a new form of roofing material, a new form of a food, a recipe, because I don't like, genetically engineered food, but y'all know what I'm saying, right? Like we're all here to create something, and it's not going to look the same for everybody, right? So we are integrating using the material world to fund the spiritual business. And this is where you realize, like, being the thing really requires you to align with the material laws of what I would call like the second mansion. And many of us who know astrology, the second house, the assets, right? So these laws, this concept of being the thing requires you to align with the material laws of the second house assets while keeping your eyes on the 10th house legacy. All right, legacy. So I want to now get into this other part of aspiration, which is the social layer, because listen, this is the gift of communal ascension. And I'm going to get deep into something later that also may turn people off, but you know what? Hey, I'm here to be effective, and I still love you anyway. So the gift about communal ascension is the realization that we can't truly be sovereign if we are surrounded by people who refuse to be great or are just comfortable where they're at. Okay, you can't it's going to be a harder job ascending amongst people who are complacent where they currently are. It's a law. Okay, it's a law. So now I want to get into the city, right? The highest manifestation of this gene key, because remember, the shadow is greed, the gift is aspiration, and when you're just living in that space of aspiration, the city naturally comes to fruition, which is all about bliss, the divine marriage. This is the ultimate goal. So when I talk about, by the way, if you pick up my Sovereign CEO, the Bioenergetic Business Bible, I go deep into this, right? So the ultimate goal of this is the sacred energetic exchange at its highest level. Sacred energetic exchange, sex, y'all, sex. Okay, yes, all up and through there. Okay, so the frequency of bliss happens when the serpent, which is the drive, the ambition, reaches the crown, the divine vision. And we talk about this a lot. Many of you who are in this kundalini activation, this kundalini journey, some of you who are familiar with tantra, like, we talk about this all day every day. You know what I'm saying? You're literally merging the base, the lower part of your energetic centers, your chakras, which is all about the material world, into the higher level. This is the integration of both worlds. It's an integration of both worlds. And for some reason, some of us has convinced ourselves it has to be one or the other, right? Your When this happens, and this is why I know spirit really guided me to work with right now those who are called to step fully in their visionary leadership, their CEO frequency, their executives, business owner, entrepreneurial, even intrapreneurial energy, right? Because whatever your business is, and it doesn't have to be a corporation. When I talk about your business also being your purpose, whatever your business is, it becomes a living temple. It comes its own sanctuary, comes its own mission, right? So you no longer work, you're just emanating. You just out here emanating, right? The wealth comes not because you chased it, which is all about that greed frequency, but because your frequency is so freaking stable that the universe has no choice but to what? Bankroll your vision, baby. Okay. And again, I want to be clear, bankrolling your vision does include finances, but it also includes a network of people that put you in rooms and places you at tables that you never thought you would be in. Oh my gosh, I have so many stories, but we'll share it at another time. All right. So I really want to just hone that in, right? And so another part of this title was stop the broke shit. Okay. So sovereignty is sexy and we got to stop the broke shit. Now, what do you mean by when you say broke shit, Riziki? I am so glad you asked. Let's break that down, shall we? Let's break down the anatomy of broke and the spiritual trap. All right. So the first thing, because we ain't even we gonna put money to the side. We all understand the association with broke when it comes to finances, right? But let's talk about broke mindedness. We talking about energy leaks. Okay. I work with quite a few geniuses, creative visionaries that have what I call idea indigestion. Okay. You have this $1 million vision, right? But let me take a sip of water. You got a $1 million vision, but 10-cent execution. You have an entrepreneurial, you have an entrepreneurial um mission and vision for yourself, but and there's nothing wrong with it being an employee because all businesses need employees, but in your mind you want to be a business owner but you got an employee work ethic. It don't match, it don't go together, right? It does not go together at all. So when we're talking about this broke mindedness, it's you really have to make sure that what you're thinking and what you're being aligns. So I want to talk about like this idea indigestion because this is something that really creates stagnation and loss of momentum. So with this idea indigestion, like analysis paralysis, you're overthinking because again, you got this $1 million idea. I get it. It's a big thing, right? But you're overthinking instead of actually building the container to hold the wealth spirit is trying to pour in. Oh my God. Let me stop right here. And I listen, y'all, as I'm talking with you, I'm also talking to myself because I definitely remember the times. And as I still am elevating and ascending, right? I have to be mindful is what I'm do I have the container big enough or strong enough or structured enough to carry and hold the type of wealth and vision that I'm wanting, that I'm demanding, that I'm petitioning for? Do I? Right? Because if spirit is trying to pour in all this abundance, if spirit is trying to pour in all this abundance, no, all this abundance, but then my capacity is this size, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I want to get into something else. Now, this applies to both men and women. For some strange reason, it is believed that mainly women are affected by this. And y'all, I have story for days, not just a personal story of myself, but clients and associates and people who are close to me that I've literally witnessed this. Okay. But let's talk about broke intimacy. Let's talk about it, okay? Because sex and money, it's connected, right? Again, sex is this energetic, sacred, energetic exchange. And when you lay down with someone who is comfortable and complacent, you are downloading and exchanging their poverty operating system into your shared resources, into your energetic auric field of shared resources. I want to tell you a story, true story. And if this person is watching this, I'm just saying this as a testimony. We've talked about it, so I'm here to share these realities because people need to hear it. All right, here we go. So there's a man and a woman. We'll call them Jack and Jill, okay? And they went up and down all kinds of hills, okay? So Jack had his own wounding. Jill had her own wounding. And Jack and Jill got together off of a what? Trauma bond. Exactly. Now, Jack had a lot of confidence issues surrounding capability, based on just certain principles of masculinity. Maybe in life he did not have a chance to strengthen those muscles and awaken those muscles. And when I talk about masculine principles, I'm not talking about bravado, right? I'm talking about um, the principle of strategy, the principle of logic, the principle of warriorship, the principle of being a hunter, right? The principle of architecture, okay? The principle of um, really having the fortitude to go to push through challenges regardless of emotions. Okay. Not to say trying to kill yourself, but all right, that. Now, Jill had issues with validation, had issues with insecurity and feelings of safety, had issues in abandonment, had issues with, just needing to be validated in all these ways or whatever. And their season brought them together where it was a trauma bond, and yet there was a friendship, and yet there was business involved, and yet there was intimacy involved. Okay. Now you have Jack and Jill wanting to create these businesses on their own and together, and then they're mixing all of these energies with each other. Okay. Now, mind you, there were moments that Jack hurt and disappointed Jill. I'm sure that there were moments where Jill hurt and disappointed Jack. There was Jack's realization of, oh yeah, I'm making you believe that I want this kind of relationship, but really he did not. He didn't. And then Jill believing his words, even though his actions said otherwise. So then there's Jack, who really doesn't want to commit, but, utilizing her energy for resources and intimacy. And when I say resources, like, you know, they were going after business deals together, okay? And sex and companionship. And then Jill, didn't like being lonely, so she liked having a man around and the whole intimacy. And yes, there was a friendship. Yes, there were times where both of them were there for each other when no one else was, right? So then you have these two people who are wounded having all kinds of nasty, freaky sex, just mixing all these energies, right? And again, Jill is getting attached to Jack, wanting a relationship. Jack is like, nah, son, that's not what I want. So while Jill is continuing to have sex with a dude who clearly don't want to be in a relationship with her, her creative energy is being, not, I don't want to say siphoned, but her creative energy is being disrespected, not valued. Whenever a woman is in a situation where she's not being valued, her creative energy will not flourish. Whenever a man is planting his energetic or physical seed in a woman who is not secure, who is not happy, who is not at her highest in her creative energy, what are you birthing? What are you birthing? And needless to say, financially, they both went through things that just not was that wasn't good for them, right? So sex, ladies and gentlemen, is very much tied to money. And if you are wondering why there is this epidemic of people being celibate, because there's men too, not just women, it's because we have to realize that sex is more than just an orgasm and a nut. Okay, it's literally a sacred energetic exchange where if we're mixing all these fluids and these energies, at the end of the day we're creating something. In the book that I wrote, The Sovereign CEO, 1 + 1 don't equal 2, it equals 3. It equals 3. Okay, so what is that third thing being born? Is you mixing energies with somebody who is poverty minded, broke minded, or just not in alignment with your mission and your vision. Y'all don't get me started. Now, maybe in a private chat, I'll tell y'all some of my personal stories, because I had a situation, and you know what? It's Riziki After Dark. I'm gonna be real. Let me tell you something. There was a situationship, and I'm talking about that thing was good. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it never felt every time we were intimate, there was always something happening with my money, and I just said, yeah, nah, gotta go. So my point is this, kings and queens, ladies and gentlemen, all right, if you are wondering why your money is getting funny after the sacred energetic exchange, it's the exchange. All right, it's the exchange. Let me moisturize 1 second. We're in a time right now where just all over the planet, frequencies is elevating and everybody is becoming more sensitive. So when you're more sensitive, you're more subject to the other person's frequency, and it's going to work with you well, or it's going to create some imbalances, and we don't want the imbalances. All right, so the other kind of brokenness that I want to talk about, again, not just money, but broke loyalty. All right, broke loyalty. It's a loyalty trap that some of us are in, staying in um certain communities, or staying in a circle with people who have no intention of building enterprise, who have no intention of expanding beyond their comfort zone, who have no intention of building the kind of wealth that you see for yourself, right? So even though you find or you think you're being loyal to this kind of community or this kind of environment or family member or friend or circle of people, whatever, you're really being loyal to your own stagnation, right? That's what that's about. You're really being loyal to your own stagnation. All right. So I want you to think about that. There's broke loyalty, there's broke intimacy. Okay. There's also the broke mindedness. All right. So please keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So next, I want to talk about this metaphysical gap, and I want to keep it 100. All right. So, in this journey, many of us are an architect and we're building bridges as we're walking on it, right? So for instance, some of us have, you know, real life situations that don't match the level of frequency that their metaphysical spiritual knowledge sits on, right? There's been times where I knew mad metaphysical shit and my bank account was not aligning. Okay, like how is this working? Okay, all right, how is this working? So this is part of the gap that we're closing tonight, family. All right, it's not about being perfect, it's just about the execution plan. That's it. It's the execution plan, because as humans we're not going to be perfect. It's the execution plan. There's this radio tower analogy that I want to talk about, radio tower analogy and molting. So I want you to think about yourself as a radio tower broadcasting sovereignty, right? But if you're surrounded by people broadcasting struggle, broadcasting entitlement, you use 10 times the power just to drown out their static. Do you know what other things that amount of power could be going towards, instead of just drowning out, instead of trying to protect yourself, right? Like, yeah, no. That's energy leakage. And so we got to molt like a snake. You have to shed the old skin. You got to shed the old environment to grow the new scales. And so that you can be prepared for a new environment that's more fitting for the new skin that you're in, my friend. All right? Another thing, y'all, and we got 20 minutes left, but I got to get this out. Monitoring spirits. There was another term for this. There was another term for this and I can't remember, but I want to talk about some of this ish that no one wants to face. Okay. So there are people watching your road trip, not to learn, but to siphon. I want to tell the true story. And this story exists in many circles. It's not just this one. Okay. But there are a lot of people in their position today who lack creativity, who lack true vision, but they surround themselves with people who are super creative and do have vision, and then they take the credit for that. It's a very parasitic type of leadership. I also talk about that in the Sovereign CEO, right? They are there to siphon your energy in business and also sometimes your personal life. Now, some people say, man, my energy is mine. There's no real way that they can siphon your energy. All right, well, let me give you an example. Um, so when I say siphon, I simply mean people putting themselves around you simply to study you, simply to study how you move, how you act, how you are. And yes, they will never be you. They will never be you, right? But it's a real effort to study how you move, study how you are so that they can mimic it, but also extract information, extract your ideas, extract your parts of you that you're utilizing for yourself to build, right? And mind you, what's yours is yours, but I also want to be realistic that there are many proven cases throughout history where somebody who lacked creativity was around somebody who was created, and then they took credit for that person's creativity, and their families today are benefiting off of it. So sometimes we get too metaphysical and spiritual, it becomes a little bit delusional, to where we really feel like, oh, can't nobody take nothing from you. Well, it's happened, right? So however you want to register that in your mind, it's happened. All right. So that's something to be mindful about. A lot of people want the sexy without the sovereignty. So you gotta guard your own mothership. You gotta guard your own kingdom, your own queendom, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. People are gonna get offended. People may have a problem with it, but oh well. Wish them well and hope that they work through it. All right. Healthy versus unhealthy connections. So I'm offering you the opportunity to ask yourself: Are your connections building? Are your connections building the ladders, or the, what did they call the thing that's on the side of the building, and like people are like doing the scaffolding, right? Are your connections building the scaffolding for your empire, or are they just leaning on your walls until they crumble? Like, who's around you really about the vision of your life, or are they just hanging around waiting for the benefit, right? Healthy connections require contracts, meaning agreements, and boundaries, like respect from a space. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is breaking the toy houses. So the empire out there are people building on sand, right? And people playing roles assigned by society, right? We aren't here to play roles because life ain't a game. You know what I mean? We're here to build foundations. And so, again, like I said before, for some reason there's this idea that everybody, like every single person on this planet, is meant to be on the mountain meditating. No, No, that's not true. Because if everyone is the healer, who's the builder? If everyone's the builder, who's the warrior? If everyone's a warrior, who's the translator coding the systems? It's just not true. And this is what makes the beauty of sacred commerce and alliances globally, right? One of the biggest things I always say is that we don't lack creativity, but sometimes we lack a little bit of organization. We lack a little bit of systems, right? And organization and systems is very much ancestral. So there's this concept of being the thing, but many of us aren't being told or don't know how much energy it takes to be a giant in a room of small minded people. This is no shame or shade, but this is very true. I'm sure, and it's not just me, but I'm sure many of you had an idea, and when you expressed it to a room full of people, they're like, "Huh?" Or their first reaction is, "That's not possible. You crazy. Like, why would you think like that? You can't, you can't, you can't." And they try to project what they can't do on you or what they feel like they can't do on you, right? So no. Um the Some of the greatest structures on this planet, the pyramids, certain statues, was built on architecture, not just a vibe. They were built on architecture. It was very much intentional. So organization is one of the highest forms of spiritual practices. Can you imagine if the pyramids in Kemet was just built like just okay, let's just randomly build it? No, it took organization and precision to align it with the celestial. You know what I'm saying? Like organization is a spiritual practice. I want to talk about global alliances and being and thinking beyond borders, right? And again, no shame or shade, but I've met people who never left the town that they were born in. Like they don't know the world outside of the town that they were born in, right? And that may be their path, but for some of us it's not. And some of us feel like we have to inherit paths that were passed on by people whose life journey is not ours. And so, one of the reasons why I love international business and building alliances with people globally is because it's a part of sovereignty. Sovereignty means building alliances beyond your zip code, right? So when you ask yourself, where are your creations outside of what you're used to? Where are your enterprises? How far does your network extend, right? For those of you who want land, like think about it. Where is that? Does it have to be in your hometown, or can it be in a whole other state, or even on a whole other continent? Right? Like we're talking about the alliances that's going to help you execute your vision, right? So one of the reasons again why I wrote my book was because it is a bioenergetic Bible. I want us as beings to understand that sometimes us being the bottleneck in our life, us being the blockage in our life, is not always it does start in the mind. Some of it is literally in our cellular memory, right? But the same way we know the cause, it gives us the same way we know the cause, the shadow, we find the solution in that, the gift, the solution, right? And so when you go through your own 12-point assessment, right, you get to see where parts of your energy and where your vision is leaking, right? So it's all about building a new culture, fam. You know, the old ways is dead, and we know that. We all understand that the age of Aquarius for those who follow Western is here. For some of us who understand sidereal, we know we're close on the brink and we are feeling the effects right now, right? So it's never my intention to sell dreams. It's never my intention to sell dreams. I'm always here to help and empower us to build a real life plan, right? Because it's necessary. And many of us have been feeling a pull, we've been feeling a call, and it's because we have to do it different. We have to do something different. All right. So I thank y'all for tuning in, and I just wanted to talk to you all and just get this out, and hopefully this message reached you and touched you in some way. I definitely look forward to more episodes with you all, and any topics you want to talk about. I definitely can't wait to have more guest speakers on here. And not everything will be heavy, right? I look forward to having fun. I look forward to, laughing and just having a good time with you all. And at the same time, though, I'm always going to be real about what's happening with us as a collective, as a community, that can affect us, because there are a lot of distractions that are present to keep us ignorant of what's already here and what's to come. All right. So as always, y'all, I'll see y'all next time. I will see you in the dark, because that's where we find the light, and start co-creating, start knowing that you are a creator, because you are the miracle. You don't have to wait for a miracle. You are the miracle. All right. And listen to the cues, watch for the signs. you know when the phone rings, pick it up. When the alarm sounds, pay attention. All right. So peace, love, and prosperity. I am the metaphysical CEO, Riziki-Zafira. I want y'all to stay sexy, stay sovereign, and I'll see y'all next time on the mothership. Peace.